The Royal Navy deployed hundreds of warships during World War II, from mighty battleships and carriers to nimble destroyers and stealthy submarines. This video breaks down every important vessel they put to sea. Let's begin with battleships, the capital ships of the fleet. King George V class. Britain's newest and most powerful battleships, the KGV class featured 10 14-inch guns in an unusual quadruple and twin turret arrangement. These ships formed the backbone of the home fleet, with HMS Prince of Wales famously engaging the Bismarck before her tragic loss to Japanese aircraft. Despite their unconventional armament, they proved to be tough, well-armored vessels that served throughout the war. Queen Elizabeth class, veterans of World War I extensively modernized in the interwar years, these ships carried 8 massive 15-inch guns that could strike targets over 20 miles away. HMS Warspite became the most decorated ship in Royal Navy history, fighting from Norway to the Mediterranean, while the class saw action in every major theater. Their extensive refits gave them improved armor and anti-aircraft defenses that kept them relevant against modern threats. Nelson class, instantly recognizable with all 3 main turrets forward of the superstructure. These ships mounted 9 16-inch guns, the largest in British service. Built under treaty restrictions, they sacrificed speed for armor and firepower, making them slow but incredibly tough. HMS Rodney helped sink the Bismarck, firing over 300 shells into the German battleship at point-blank range. Revenge class, older sisters to the Queen Elizabeth class, the Revenge ships retained their original 15-inch guns, but received fewer upgrades. Slower and less protected than their modernized cousins, they were relegated to convoy, escort, and bombardment duties. HMS Royal Sovereign was transferred to the Soviet Navy in 1944, serving as Arkhangelsk, until returned in 1949. Renown-class battlecruisers. These fast capital ships traded armor for speed, capable of reaching 30 knots. Armed with 6 15-inch guns and extensively modernized before the war, they hunted German raiders and supported carrier operations. HMS Renown engaged the Scharnhorst and Gneisenau off Norway, using her speed to close the range despite being outgunned. HMS Hood, the legendary battlecruiser and pride of the Royal Navy, Hood was the largest warship in the world for 2 decades. Her 8 15-inch guns and graceful lines made her a symbol of British naval power, but her outdated armor proved fatal when a shell from Bismarck detonated her magazines in 1941. Only 3 of her 1,418 crew survived the catastrophic explosion. Next on the list is aircraft carriers, the new queens of naval warfare. Illustrious class, revolutionary armored carriers designed to operate in hostile waters. These ships featured a 3-inch armored flight deck that could withstand bomb hits that would cripple American carriers. Armed with just 36 aircraft compared to American carriers' 80+, they prioritized survivability over striking power. HMS Illustrious survived multiple 1,000-pound bomb hits at Malta, earning the nickname Lusty the Lucky. HMS Ark Royal, Britain's first purpose-built modern carrier, Ark Royal carried up to 60 aircraft and pioneered many carrier operations. Her swordfish torpedo bombers crippled the Bismarck's steering, sealing the battleship's fate in the Atlantic. Despite her fame, she was torpedoed by U-81 inches the Mediterranean, sinking just 30 miles from Gibraltar after a prolonged damage control battle. HMS Eagle, converted from a battleship hull during construction, Eagle was one of the first carriers with an island superstructure. Operating primarily in the Mediterranean, she delivered crucial Spitfires to Malta during the island's darkest days. She was torpedoed by U-73 inches August 1942 during Operation Pedestal, sinking in just 4 minutes. HMS Hermes, the first ship in the world designed from the keel up as an aircraft carrier. This small veteran predated modern carrier design. With capacity for just 15 to 20 aircraft, she was too small and slow for frontline operations by 1939. She was sunk by Japanese dive bombers in the Indian Ocean in 1942, making her the first carrier sunk by carrier-based aircraft. Escort carriers, converted from merchant hulls or built on simplified designs, these small carriers provided vital air cover for convoys. Ships like HMS Audacity, Attacker class, and Ruler class operated fewer than 20 aircraft but could spot U-boats and provide fighter protection. Their presence dramatically reduced convoy losses in the Battle of the Atlantic. Continuing with heavy cruisers, the armored fists of the fleet. County class, Britain's first heavy cruisers built under the Washington Treaty, mounting 8 8-inch guns in twin turrets. These ships sacrificed armor for range and speed, designed to patrol the vast reaches of the British Empire. HMS Exeter fought heroically at the Battle of the River Plate, helping to drive the Graf Spee into port despite sustaining severe damage from the German pocket battleship. York class, an improved county design with better armor protection and a more compact profile. Armed with 6 8-inch guns, they were faster and more maneuverable than their predecessors. HMS York was severely damaged in a daring Italian motorboat attack in Ceuta Bay, Crete, and was scuttled during the evacuation of the island. Let's move on to light cruisers, the workhorses of the fleet. Town class, a large group of light cruisers subdivided into Southampton, Gloucester, and Edinburgh subclasses, mounting 12 6-inch guns in triple turrets. Fast and well-armed, they served as fleet scouts and convoy escorts across all theaters. HMS Belfast, the most famous survivor, is now a museum ship in London, while HMS Edinburgh went down carrying 5 tons of Soviet gold. Dido-class anti-aircraft cruisers, purpose-built to protect the fleet from air attack with 10 5.25-inch dual-purpose guns. Their high rate of fire made them deadly against aircraft, though some were completed with fewer guns due to wartime shortages. They proved their worth in the Mediterranean, where air attacks were constant and devastating. Arethusa class, smaller and cheaper than the Towns, these ships mounted 6 6-inch guns and were designed for trade protection. Their economical design allowed more to be built, though they were less capable in fleet actions. HMS Galatea was torpedoed by U-557 off Alexandria, sinking with heavy loss of life. Crown Colony class, wartime cruisers that returned to triple 6-inch turrets after the Arethusa experiment. Also known as Fiji class, these ships combined good firepower with improved anti-aircraft armament. HMS Trinidad accidentally torpedoed herself with a faulty torpedo in Arctic waters, the weapon circling back in the freezing seas. Emerald class, elderly cruisers from the 1,922nd that somehow survived to serve in World War II. Armed with 7 6-inch guns and an outdated arrangement, they were too valuable to scrap despite being obsolete. They spent most of the war on convoy, escort, and patrol duties far from major combat. Next on the list is destroyers, the fleet's multi-role warriors. Tribal class, heavily armed fleet destroyers mounting 8 4.7-inch guns and 4 twin turrets, sacrificing torpedo tubes for gun power. These large, powerful ships were designed to counter the super destroyers of other navies. HMS Cossack became famous for rescuing British prisoners from the German supply ship Altmark in Norwegian waters, a daring violation of neutrality. J, K, N class, standard fleet destroyers that formed the backbone of destroyer flotillas, armed with 6 4.7-inch guns and 10 torpedo tubes. Fast and capable, they operated in every theater from the North Atlantic to the Pacific. The ships went through multiple variants, with later vessels receiving improved anti-aircraft armament as the air threat grew. Hunt-class escort destroyers, smaller and slower than fleet destroyers, optimized for convoy escort with heavy anti-aircraft armament but just 4 4-inch guns. Their shallow draft allowed them to operate in coastal waters where larger destroyers couldn't go. Over 80 were built, making them one of the most numerous destroyer classes. O and P class, economy destroyers that balanced cost against capability, carrying 4 4.7-inch guns. They served primarily in the Mediterranean and home fleet, with several lost in the brutal fighting around Crete. Their wartime experience influenced the design of later emergency classes. War emergency destroyers, ships like the Battle class and Weapon class built to simplified designs for rapid construction. The Battle class mounted 5 4.5-inch guns in fully enclosed turrets and sophisticated fire control, making them arguably the best fleet destroyers of the war. Many were completed too late to see combat, but served well into the Cold War. Continuing with submarines, the Silent Hunters, T class. the Royal Navy's most successful submarine design with over 50 built, mounting one 4-inch gun and up to 11 torpedo tubes, depending on the group. These large patrol submarines operated from the Mediterranean to the Far East, sinking hundreds of Axis vessels. HMS Torbay became one of the highest-scoring British submarines, commanded by the aggressive and innovative Lieutenant Commander Mears, S-Class. Smaller boats designed for operations in confined waters like the North Sea, carrying 6 torpedo tubes. Highly maneuverable and reliable, they were perfect for coastal patrol and anti-shipping operations. Over 60 were built, making them nearly as numerous as the T-Class. U-Class, originally designed as unarmed training submarines, they were quickly fitted with torpedo tubes and pressed into combat. Small and economical, they operated in the Mediterranean and home waters, though their limited range restricted their deployment. Despite being a stopgap design, they proved surprisingly effective. V-Class, improved U-Class boats with better habitability and range, they continued the successful small submarine design. Their size made them ideal for Mediterranean operations where larger boats struggled in the shallow, clear waters. They accounted for numerous Italian and German vessels, X-craft midget submarines, tiny 4-man boats designed for covert attacks on enemy harbors, carrying 2 side-mounted explosive charges. They successfully crippled the German battleship Tirpitz in a daring raid on Kafjord, Norway, putting the ship out of action for months. Their crews faced almost certain capture or death on their missions. Next on the list is escort vessels, the unsung heroes of the convoy war. Flower-class corvettes, cheap, simple anti-submarine vessels based on a whaling ship design, nearly 300 were built. Armed with a single 4-inch gun and depth charges, they rolled terribly in Atlantic swells, but were available in numbers when Britain desperately needed escorts. Their crews endured some of the worst conditions of the war, spending weeks in freezing, heaving seas. River-class frigates, larger and more capable than corvettes, with better seakeeping and anti-submarine weapons. They carried modern sonar, depth charges, and Hedgehog anti-submarine mortars that could attack without losing sonar contact. Their twin screws gave them excellent maneuverability for U-boat hunting. Castle-class corvettes, an improved flower design with better habitability and increased anti-aircraft armament. Built later in the war when convoy escort tactics had been perfected, they benefited from hard-won experience. They were faster and more seaworthy than their predecessors. Black Swan-class sloops, elegant anti-submarine vessels mounting 6 4-inch guns in 3 twin turrets. Larger and more expensive than corvettes, they were designed for colonial patrol duties, but proved excellent submarine hunters. Their graceful lines and good speed made them popular with their crews. Let's move on to motor torpedo boats and coastal forces. Fairmile D-Class, powerful motor torpedo boats dubbed dog boats, carrying 4 18-inch torpedoes and bristling with guns, including a 6-pounder bowgun. With a top speed over 30 knots, they raided enemy convoys, fought E-boats, and supported commando operations. Their wooden construction kept them off magnetic mines but made them vulnerable to gunfire. Vosper MTBs, fast, aggressive boats, built by Vosper that pushed speeds over 40 knots with supercharged engines. Armed with 2 torpedo tubes and machine guns, they hunted in packs along the enemy coast. Their crews faced brutal combat at point-blank range in nighttime actions. Motor gunboats, specialized coastal craft that traded torpedoes for heavy gun armament, designed to fight enemy E-boats and protect convoys. Mounting 2-pounder pom-poms and Oerlikon cannons, they could lay down devastating fire. They often worked in concert with MTBs, providing fire support while the torpedo boats attacked. Steam gunboats, unique vessels powered by steam turbines, giving them sustained high speed and good range. Armed with a 3-inch gun and lighter weapons, they conducted long-range patrols and fought surface actions. Their steam plants made them quieter than diesel boats when approaching targets. Continuing with landing craft and amphibious vessels. Landing craft tank, LCT, ocean-going vessels that could beach themselves to land tanks directly onto hostile shores. These ungainly but essential craft carried up to 9 tanks or numerous vehicles, with a bow ramp for rapid unloading. They participated in every major Allied amphibious operation from North Africa to Normandy. Landing ship tank, LST, larger ocean-going ships that could carry up to 20 tanks plus 160 troops on voyages across entire oceans. Their shallow draft and bow doors allowed them to beach in just 3 feet of water, disgorging their cargo directly onto the beach. Over 1,000 were built, with many operated by the Royal Navy Landing Craft Infantry, LCI, carrying up to 200 troops directly to the beach via ramps on either side of the bow. These 160-foot vessels could make the channel crossing independently, carrying entire companies into battle. They were faster than LCTs, but more vulnerable to beach obstacles and defensive fire. Landing Craft Assault, LCA. Small armored assault boats carrying 35 troops right into the teeth of enemy fire. With armor plating and a low profile, they gave infantry some protection during the most dangerous moments of an amphibious assault. Thousands were built, deployed from larger ships offshore. Next on the list is minesweepers and mine warfare vessels. Bangor-class minesweepers, purpose-built vessels designed to sweep the magnetic and acoustic mines that plagued Allied shipping. Over 100 served in the Royal Navy, with some built in Canada and designed to operate in rough North Atlantic conditions. Their work was unglamorous but absolutely vital, with every convoy route requiring constant sweeping. Algerine-class minesweepers, larger and more capable than the Bangors, these ships could also serve as convoy escorts. Armed with a 4-inch gun and anti-aircraft weapons, they combined mine clearance capability with general-purpose utility. They were particularly valuable in the Mediterranean, where mines were a constant threat. Motor minesweepers, small wooden craft that swept coastal waters and harbors where larger vessels couldn't operate. Simple and cheap to build, hundreds were constructed, and they cleared countless mines from British ports and invasion beaches. Their wooden hulls protected them from magnetic influence mines. Net layers and boom defense vessels, specialized ships that deployed anti-submarine nets and boom defenses to protect harbors and anchorages. Unglamorous but essential, they maintained the underwater barriers that kept U-boats away from concentrated shipping. Ships like HMS Protector pioneered these defensive techniques. Let's move on to armed merchant cruisers and auxiliary vessels. Armed merchant cruisers, converted ocean liners fitted with 6-inch guns from World War I stocks, used to patrol vast ocean areas that regular warships couldn't cover. Ships like HMS Jervis Bay sacrificed themselves to save convoys, fighting hopeless battles against pocket battleships. Their thin merchant hulls made them death traps against proper warships, but their size and range made them invaluable for patrol duties. Repair ships, floating workshops like HMS Resource that could repair battle damage far from home dockyards. Carrying machine shops, welding equipment, and spare parts, they kept fleets operational in forward areas. They were particularly vital in the Pacific, where the nearest British dockyard was thousands of miles away. Depot ships, motherships that supported destroyer and submarine flotillas with accommodation, supplies, and repair facilities. Ships like HMS Forth and HMS Maidstone allowed submarines to operate far from base, providing everything from torpedoes to hot meals. They were targets of high value and well protected in defended anchorages. Ocean boarding vessels, converted trawlers, and small merchantmen used to board and search neutral ships for contraband. Operating in terrible weather far from support, their crews enforced the blockade that slowly strangled Germany's war economy. This unglamorous duty was nevertheless crucial to Allied strategy. Hospital ships, clearly marked vessels like HMHS Atlantis that evacuated wounded from combat zones under the protection of the Geneva Convention. Their white hulls with red crosses were supposed to guarantee safety, though some were attacked by Axis forces. They saved thousands of lives, bringing wounded men home from every theater. Finally, we have monitors and specialized bombardment vessels. Roberts-class monitors, shallow draft bombardment ships mounting 2 15-inch guns in a single turret, designed specifically to support amphibious operations. With minimal freeboard and almost no seaworthiness, they were towed to the combat zone and anchored offshore to provide devastating fire support. HMS Roberts and HMS Abercrombie bombarded Normandy beaches, their massive shells demolishing German fortifications. Insect-class river gunboats, small, shallow-draft vessels that operated on the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, armed with 6-inch guns. These veterans of World War I continued serving in colonial waters, supporting ground operations in Mesopotamia. Their size allowed them to navigate rivers where larger warships couldn't reach. Specialized headquarters, ships, converted cruisers, and liners fitted with extensive communications equipment to coordinate complex amphibious operations. Ships like HMS Bulolo and HMS Largs directed the movements of hundreds of landing craft and provided command facilities for Army commanders. They were the nerve centers of combined operations, fast mine layers, like HMS Adventure and HMS Manxman, capable of laying hundreds of mines at high speed. These converted light cruisers could dash into enemy waters, sow deadly fields, and escape before the enemy could react. Their mine barrages sank U-boats and closed vital sea lanes to Axis shipping.